there are nearly 2.3 million inmates in the United States prison system, and the current prison system is clearly broken, and it would help the United States government by moving the prisons to the private sector, but it would also be beneficial to the taxpayers, because currently more money is going towards housing criminals than like actually helping the state and the country become a better place, you know? I'm qualified to talk about this because I recently wrote a paper on this topic, and I had to learn like a lot about it, and I'm also really interested in criminal justice, and my major is currently forensic science, which is kind of in the criminal justice field. Like technically I'm under the criminal justice career path, I guess. There should be more prison reform than what has already happened, and most importantly, the prisons should be moved to the private sector. The prison system needs to be moved to the private sector, first off because the prison reform that has already occurred is not enough, and more needs to be done in order to help build a better criminal justice system than what we already have, and ours is already pretty good, you know? The first private prisons were opened in 1983 during President Ronald Reagan's first term, and like the big prison reform that took place occurred in the 1970s after the 1960s race riots throughout the country, and it was just thought to be helpful to increase police presence. The funding to the criminal justice system in the 1970s rose. It was increased by nearly 50%, and in many places the number of police officers doubled and sometimes even grew by 2/3 of what the police force already was. So a lot more police officers were being hired so they could essentially arrest more people and hopefully take care of the crime problems that we were seeing across the country at the time. The current criminal justice system is actually a system of deterrence, and the goal overall, as it should be, is to keep people out of prison. But if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. So if you are convicted, you are going to be sent to prison for a good amount of time, usually depending on what offense was committed. The current prison system is not equipped to deal with the number of inmates it is currently housing, and along with all the issues that the inmates have, it just can't deal with everything that's going on, you know? Mass incarceration is also a huge issue that is happening in the United States, as everyone probably knows. Like I stated at the beginning, 2.3 million inmates in the United States, that's a big number. Like, I think we can all recognize that. And often homeless people end up in prisons because they don't have anywhere else to go, and like, I don't know, they're hungry, like they're out here stealing some food, and then like they get caught up in the system, and you're just like, yeah, that's not good. Moving prisons to the private sector would be beneficial to both the inmate and to the government. It would be beneficial to the inmate because nearly 500,000 of our current inmates are mentally ill, and most prisons don't have the abilities to give them the help that they need. So by moving to a private prison system, this would help immensely with the number of not necessarily the number of mentally ill people, but the number of mentally ill people who are getting help, so they could hopefully live a better life, you know? And it would be beneficial for the government, because overall it would be cheaper for the government to send inmates to a prison owned by a different company. Obviously, they would have to pay a certain number, but it wouldn't be like paying to... Currently, the government is paying not only to run the facilities, but also to feed and keep these prisoners alive. So being able to just pay to keep the prisoners alive and not have to run the facility would be a huge weight taken off of the government's shoulders. Overall, it makes sense for the current prison system to move completely to the private sector, then try and reform the whole system that we already have, because the last time prison reform occurred, it cost us more money. So why would you not try and fix it by doing this thing that is already happening and is already working in most cases when there are private prisons that are opened? What you can do to help this movement, I guess, would just be to learn more about it, you know, get a little information. Yeah, that's it.